Hi guys, welcome to Bado-Dev channel. In this video we will talk about Entity Framework and C#. What is Entity Framework? The official definition says that Entity Framework is an object relational mapper that enables .NET developers to work with a database using .NET objects. It eliminates the need for most of the data access code that developers usually need to write. Entity Framework is an open source framework supported by Microsoft and fits between the business entities and the database. So what does it mean? It means that with Entity Framework, the developer doesn't need to create some classes to create command, execute command to read or write into a database. But with Entity Framework will be created some classes that are a wrapper to the database and the developer can use that classes to access to the database. Our application will be structured in 4 main layers. The presentation layer, that is the layer that interacts with the user, so will be our console application. The business layer, that is the layer containing all the business logics and the domain classes of our application, and the data layer, that is the entity framework layer. We will implement a console application that will read a list of customers from the AdventWorks database using Entity Framework, and will show some data, some customers' data on the console screen. So, okay, let's start. The first thing to do is to launch Visual Studio and to create our console application. So we can call it test_entity_framework.console. Okay, the destination folder, create it. Now we have to add our two modules, the business layer and the data layer. So the business layer will be both class libraries, so test_entity_framework.business layer and test.entity_framework.data layer. Okay, now we have to reference this project, so the console application will reference the business layer, and the business layer will reference the data layer. Okay, next step is to add our Bado-Net entity data model to our data layer. So we will add a new element. We'll search for entity net data model. We can call edv database db. Okay. Okay, now Entity Framework asks us what we want to do, and in this case we already have a database, so we have to create the mapping classes starting from an existing database. So we have to select the first option and then set the connection. Now here it is set my connection. You will have to insert your data, and now we can call it edv entities. Okay, let's go Entity Framework 6, and now we have to choose the objects to map. We will select all table view and store procedures, and we call it edv model. Okay, now Entity Framework is creating the ADMX file. Okay, in this diagram we can see all tables and views, and into the list on the right of the screen, on the right side of the screen, we can see all the objects, the procedures, view, tables, and so on. Now we can save this model, and it automatically will create all mapping classes. Okay, we can close it. The next step to do is to add a class to the data layer, so we can rename our class 1 to edivu entities. Edivu entities. That it must inherit from db context. Okay, using system data entity, because we have to create a constructor of the edivu entities. That is the name that we set for our data context, for our db context, because we have to create a new constructor that accepts a connection string. Okay, now we create a public edivu entities name or connection string. Okay, we call base name or connection string. Okay, now we have to work on the business layer. We have to create our manager class. That is the class where we can write all our business logic about our database. And so we can create the edivu manager class, our manager class that we call edivu manager class. Okay, rename it. Okay, we can a private edivu entities. Okay, let's use the reference to the data layer, and we can call edivu db context. Okay, our object. Now the constructor that is a public edivu manager string connection string. Okay, and this constructor we will set the edivu db context equals new edivu entities connection string. So we will call our edivu entities. Okay, here we need in our edivu entities. Sorry, we have to call it as to set this as partial class. Okay, that's right. And now we can create our method that will get customers data from database. So public list of dim customer, that is the name of the table of the customers table into the database. Get customers. Okay, the name of the method, and in that case we could only write this code. Return db context, and it will be content dot dim customer dot take 100 for example. That is okay. Here we have to add the entity framework reference. Entity framework. That's right. We install it. Okay, let's come back to our code. Okay, and take 100. It means is equal to the top 100 in SQL Server. Okay, it takes the first 100 rows and to list. Okay, right. But in that case, we will return a list of dim customer object. But that's not right, because the dim customer is a data layer class and not a business layer class. So, and the presentation layer class, well, our console application can't reference dim customer because is into the data layer and not into the business layer. So we have to create into the business layer a class that map exactly the dim customer class. We have to create our model class. Okay. So we go to entity framework, to our business layer. We can add a new class called dim customer model, for example. Okay, in this class we have to set it as public, and we have to put all the fields contained into the dim customer class. So we can. This is the dim customer class that was auto-generated from entity framework. We have to copy that fields, all fields, okay, and we have to go to our dim customer model and copy that fields into it. Okay, now here we can return a list of dim customer model, but from the list that we will obtain executing this command, we have to return a dim customer model. So we have to map that data. To do this, there are two different solutions. One is to map it by hands, so writing code to map it. Or we can use a class library, for example, the automapper. So we can say return new mapper configuration. Okay. Find and install the last version of automapper. It's easy to use. We have to set a configuration, cfg cfg.create map, okay, from a dim customer object to a dim customer model object. Okay, now we have to create mapper dot map. Okay, we are in the last command. Map. We have to obtain a list of dim customer model from the execution of our commands. So from this. So that way all is okay, and now we can go to our presentation layer, to our console, and we can instantiate our manager, that is a new div manager. Div manager. Okay, we reference our business layer, and okay, here we have to set a connection string. To do this, we can go to our data layer. We can copy the connection string that entity framework used to map data. So we can copy it into our console app config. Okay, and we can obtain it configuration manager. Okay, configuration manager using get connection string. Sorry, connection strings is called div entities dot connection string. Okay, and with this command we obtain our connection string, and we can instantiate our ADV manager. Now we can obtain the list of customers. So result list, for example, equals manager dot get customers. Okay. So we can show our data, our results. So system.console.writeLine list of customers. Okay, name, or for example, we can show only name and email. And now we can loop into our customers list and show data. So for each var in res list, our item is our item. Okay, okay. System.console.writeLine. Okay, 0, 1. Okay, and here we can write the e.first name concatenated with the last name, e.last name, e.last name, and the second item is e.email, email address. Okay, that's perfect. Now we can write the command system.console.readline. Okay, it's finished, and so here we obtain the connection string. We instantiate our ADV manager. We call our getCustomers method that executes this command and maps data into a model, and then we loop into result to show data on the screen. Okay, let's go. We can stop the code here and here so we can see the results before to show them on the screen. And now we have to reference to entity framework. Okay. And launch it. Okay, now it's getting data from database. Okay, it obtained the data, and now here we can see all our 100 objects with all customer data. Now we'll open and show data on the screen. As we can see here, there are the name, surname, and the emails of the first 100 customers. We have finished our example and our video, and follow me on Facebook and subscribe to my channel Bado-Dev. Have a nice day.